morning. Yes, we can.
You have beautiful drawings behind you. I'm so curious.
What? Behind me, what?
Oh, you have beautiful sketches.
Yes, this is my laboratorium. My personal laboratorium. I give this only secret for some people, and normally I always wash it out.
But I think it's appropriate to show now. Give us a little bit of insight into the creative process, maybe.
Yeah.
You're allowed. Yes. How is everything there?
Yeah.
It's wonderful. We've had this amazing, just kind of marathon of amazing speakers. I think they've totally really set up the audience to be ready and really interested in what you have to say. We were talking about how architects, you know, are kind of bringing it in from the beginning, and we were so curious to hear, how is this changing in the global sphere? How can we do that? So, yeah, I'm very curious to hear what you have to say.
Thank you. Well, then it's better to start. Here are my slides.
Yeah, we see them. Yeah.
Perfect.
See them clearly?
Yep, looks great.
Looks great.
Is the voice, do you hear me well? Because that's what I always hope, that I speak up enough.
Yes, we hear you very good.
Loud and clear.
Good. Thank you so much. So what I would like to do today is to for the audience to talk about, as we all know, the focus shift where we are in at the moment. As UNStudio, maybe of forum. Dat was niet voor mij, hè, deze message. No. But what I find the most important as UNStudio is that we keep on innovating ourselves constantly there where necessary. And in the time when I got this fantastic chair at Harvard, so 5 years ago, then I started a topic around health and the built environment, for instance. And most of our colleagues, my friends in Harvard, they were a bit surprised because I mean they thought that health was not the most important topic to discuss today. But I always combine it with the way how health and the future of architecture can be combined with sustainable topics like circularity. So how could you make environments more better through technology, so that technology is not used for commercial reasons only for let's say see where people can shop better or not, but particularly of how could technology support a better community towards a more healthy and more sustainable environment. So that's why I'm going to talk today about this focus shift. The focus shift and the future of architecture, but maybe I better should say the future of our profession and the sector where we are in, because in the audience, I know today we have not only architects there, but we have an audience of a lot of diversity of interest from the sector, from investors, developers, and of course builders and the ones who are interested in architecture, of course. But I see a focus shift happening not only in architecture but particularly in the profession. But what I'd like to state in the first place is that the future of architecture design goes beyond aesthetics today. And what I mean by that is that in the 90s, sometimes I would have a client coming to me saying, Ben, we did such a wonderful building there in Stuttgart, the Mercedes-Benz Museum. Could you do a similar design for us, or something like around that facade? You know, so you don't have to think about the building itself, but just do a facade design because we'd like the aesthetics of your work or the iconographic quality of your work. And what I noticed today, luckily enough, with most of our clients, that they are not operating like this anymore. They luckily enough they're more interested in creating value, and of course financial value in the first place, but also human value for the built environment, and that could be connected to sustainable topics or circular topics, but it needs to we need to take care of the things we develop today and in the future in a far more radical way than we looked at it in the past. So for that reason, my bold statement on this side, it will go beyond aesthetics, and we are experiencing that already a lot. But it doesn't mean that you don't have to make meaningful places. We know all the Erasmus Bridge, but in the time when I designed the Erasmus Bridge, I didn't design it for its aesthetical qualities alone. I mean, of course, there is always somewhere the hand of the architect or the interest in beauty or in the balance of composition and whatever you would like to call it. But the key was for me here to bring this power of the ambition of the city into the design, where the north could be pulled to the south of Rotterdam, related to the Rotterdam South development there. And my reference was more to the cranes and the industrial robustness of this location of Rotterdam. You know, Rotterdam is, but in my opinion, you know, my family comes out also out of Rotterdam, so I knew a lot about the city. But this robustness and this industrial character and the harbor especially, and particularly the cranes where I'm talking about are a reference more to the bridge than anything else. And that was celebrated by so many people later. You know, that's what I want to say. That you create a lasting impact, you cannot always predict. I can also tell you that what we did with the Erasmus Bridge is quite unique, but what is for me the most important is how strange this image might look like. This sailor passed this bridge so many years every week on Friday afternoon when he came home, and he became so happy always to feel that the bridge was saluting him or embracing him to be home. That after a while he decided to have this tattoo on his body, and we showed this actually with several other people who did this in the exhibition when we celebrated the bridge for 20 years a few years ago. In order to show more about the impact of architecture, but particularly how it impacts people, and that's what I'd like to say. So it's not the iconographic alone, as I explained in the beginning, but we are moving slowly to an eye care condition where people want to be much more involved in the design. So we go from buildings more to the way how people behave in the city. What do they? How can we think of the different user groups in the city? How can we bring people more together? How can we find ways to clockwise make locations more active from the morning to the afternoon to the evening, in order to make it safer for the people and more socially sustainable also, so that people feel that they are taken care of in a neighborhood, and that you don't make these monofunctional neighborhoods anymore. Or we see that now in materials. The huge interest in wood, for instance, at the moment is unbelievable. But that doesn't mean that we have to forget what the beauty of concrete can do, because I mean there are fantastic new developments happening in concrete. So we have to be careful also when we want to be more caretaking for our environment and think about new ideas around new construction techniques and materials. Then we have to also not become dogmatic about how we build with what kind of materials alone. And technology, as we all know, plays an incredible important role. This is the image I often like to show and provoke here also and say, listen, we all are in the iPhone phase, but is our sector not still a little bit in the Walkman phase? And how can we improve through technology a better integrated way of working? And some of you might remember all the things we had not in this iPhone. I remember it. In the 80s, we had still, all these fragmented elements where we work with or amused ourselves with, like the Walkman. But interesting enough, this has been radically changed. So how could we go way also in our sector from a linear way of working, a linear economy, you could say, to a more circular economy of working, producing, and generating projects and buildings who have this ambition, and with that create more value, because that's what we are particularly at the moment researching. What are the economical values for the way how you can recycle certain materials, and what is the passport or the way of how you can bring it back into the financial cycle of investing in locations in the future, we think is incredibly important for the future of development and investing into locations. So the integration of innovation, and the integration I mean by that that we don't stand alone anymore as architects and builders and investors in the process where we design projects and invent new ideas for locations. We believe, that's why UNStudio is referred to as being a united network. We believe that you need to collaborate and work in a collaborative mode in order to innovate. And the challenges at the moment are unbelievable. If we think about in Holland, then I'm talking about particularly Holland, but I know that luckily enough in the rest of Europe and here in the West, we have to deal with many of these similar challenges. We have to be from now on 100% energy neutral with our buildings from this year onwards. Or we have to be circular in the construction sector in 2050. So we have to prepare ourselves very quickly of how we can do that in the right manner. We have to increase productivity, and the whole digital aspect and the technological aspect needs to be a crucial element in the challenges we are after at the moment. And if you go back to the efficiency and the way how we have worked over the last years in our industry, it's quite unbelievable how slow we are still. We looked it up once and learned that if you compare it to other manufacturing industries, for instance, from the agriculture to like the fashion industry or whatever, the products who are now totally, or the cars who are now produced in a far more technological way than ever before, then the construction industry is still quite behind in its strategy of and its speed, particularly of how it didn't change over the last years. So the integrated approach I talked really about, but what I mean by that also that we need to have the right tools to integrate collaborative working, and we know all that through BIM, but it's not only BIM, but there are all kinds of new methods. It's also the way how people come together in a design process, from the engineer to the constructor, the investor, and sometimes a knowledge center or an academic influence. When it comes down to new innovations, are important to bring into the design process in order to be more compact, to be more faster, and to be more efficient in the way how we can produce our buildings and come to better and quicker ideas to the locations we have to work with. I can give you a very small example. We with a small team, and that was a team from different parties we worked with over the last years. We worked for several locations in Den Haag, and from the train company to municipal people from the city, urban planners, an investor, financial specialists. We all thought about new ideas around a problem we have with the main train station there in Den Haag. And what we came up with was a third station in order to free up more space for housing in the neighborhood around a possible third station. And we would have never come to these ideas when we would have not worked in this collaborative mode together. And especially BIM, how BIM is developed lately, building information technology, whereby everything from materials, from financial aspects, from sustainable principles can be all integrally be developed in a 3D model while you develop the project, and can adjust it constantly while you learn more about the cost, for instance, of the project, and then can quickly readjust it in a very advanced manner. And I give you some examples. These are the projects we ourselves have been building, but I hope that you understand that I can't talk about every architect or every builder in the sector, because I know my work the best, I'd like to often say. But if you, for instance, look at the way how we worked on certain high-rise projects in the past years, then we discovered that with a project in Hangzhou, for instance, we were producing a project more close to 10 years. Now with the Basel Tower in Dubai, we become much faster, and even with the South Bank project in Melbourne, we have a quite ambitious schedule to be finished there in 2024. And you have to imagine all these projects become higher and higher, as you can see. Raffles is 250, Basel 300 meters, and the South Bank is 350 meters high. And we do it with less staff, that you can see also underneath the diagram, less people. And yeah, that is, some people might be worried about it, but on the other hand, these are the demands of the investors and cities where we do it and work with. Otherwise, they don't want to invest in these projects. That the cost will also go too expensive or expand too fast of so many years of building a project. So one of the other examples I'd like to give you is a project we have worked on in Doha, whereby we had to work with a brief what was quite unbelievably ambitious. The client here asked us in close to 4 to 5 years' time to build the 4 metro lines with close to 33 stations in these years. And they asked us to think of a method of how we could do that. So it needed to be flexible, efficient, quick, and scalable in the way how we had to deal with underground stations, cross stations, and stations above the ground, in order to make sure that all these different types of stations could be built as quick as possible. And what we did was to come up with a modular design manual, whereby we worked with different elements who could build, modular building elements, you could call it, who could be mirrored and shifted in such a way that they could be used in all the different designs of the station. And you have to imagine that it was not a manual what was designed for the concrete part alone, or for the casco elements alone, but for all the details in the whole project, we had to design this manual, from the tiles in the stations towards the escalators, even the carpets in the prey rooms, what you have in this sector in the world, to be integrated in this design manual. And that gave it an enormous advantage of, with these elements, to make it for the close to 8 different contractors to build this project in an enormous speed. We were asked to work with. So now we are using this modular design manual for many other projects we are working on. For instance, we are testing this out for housing projects, or particularly for the projects who have a repetitive manual in itself. But what you have to understand, it is not like a classical. It's not like a classical Meccano system where we worked with, because it's not like building blocks, but it is a quite interesting, with new technology, unique set of elements we work with in order to make the designs unique in itself when you vary with the different stations in this case. So each station is having a recognizability of the design, but they have in the same time also the diverse expression in the way how they come together. So and this is not the only project where we tested this out. We've done the same with many other projects, whereby you can see that here with, in this case, a tower project or residential projects in Singapore. We worked with close to 17, 18 different elements, but we could make close to 300 or even more variants with it by mirroring and using these different modular elements in a different way. And again, this gave it an enormous flexibility, efficiency in the building, and we could build the project in an incredible fast manner. And luckily enough, it has been recognized that we work with these strategies. In the Dutch Financial Times, there was a nice article about that the architect takes back a new form of integral control is set here, but I don't like maybe the title here because it says the architect, but I believe it is the sector again. It's our profession. The whole industry can use this technique in order to speed up all the efficiencies I talked about earlier on, from finance, the financing of the project, the way how you can make the project more circular, so that the elements you have used in the project can be reused, that you can build in a quicker manner, because it speeds up the process enormously. So all these aspects have been playing a very, very important role. And then the last part is technology. And then I hope I can, yes, then I'm still in my time. And then we have maybe a discussion, but the technological part is for me the most important latest development in a company. We set it up what is called UNSense. UNSense is not after only pure technology in the built environment, but we use technology here for making the environment more healthier, more sustainable and resilient towards a humanistic approach in design. And the right-hand project, you can see there people enjoying themselves in the rain. I mean, here it's also, I hope you hear the rain in the background of my voice, because it's raining also in Amsterdam very heavily. But here, in this neighborhood, you can see that people are happy when it rains, because all the water is reused in the full circle locally in this neighborhood through very particular new ways of using the technology for it. I will explain later. But for instance, with UNSense, we look at the future of mobility, the future of working, the future of living, the future of retail, and how technology will have a dramatic, especially after the pandemic, we all know this, that we will have, of course, a dramatic change in the way how we will live differently with technology in the future. But we also use technology for a simple new interpretation of the way how one can think about the future in general. Like this project, it's a design for the Ring in Amsterdam. The Ring is at the moment quite a noisy backyard of the city, you could say, like every ring around the city. And we said, if we think about the future of driving, when we drive more electric, then probably we don't have so much problems with the noise of the cars. And we drive more synchronic, and we had a huge amount of fantastic engineers working with us on doing all these calculations, also on synchronic driving, for instance. And we discovered that we then probably can have a totally different profile for the city and make the ring much smaller and make a hub in the middle, as you can see here, where whenever you come to the city, you can you can park there and you can take a bike to the city center, or you can take a city pod and drive with an electric pod to the city center, so that you can pull out a bit more the cars from the city center, from all the visitors who come to the city. But what is the most important, we were able, with this design, to create close to 7,000 units around the Lelylaan, the crossing point of the Lelylaan, and make a boulevard-like type of environment, like we know that in Paris, of how nice it is to live on a boulevard in this environment. And we think, and luckily enough, we are asked now from many other cities also to think about these ring roads in a totally different way. And I think the city also of Amsterdam is seriously taking this project also under their loop, in order to rethink what we can do with the ring in the future when we will drive more electric. And then this part of the city will not be anymore the backyard of the city, but it will be the front yard. So to any investor in the room, I would say, this is your challenge, invest in that part of the city. And then I will finish with my last project. It's the Brainport Smart District project in Helmond, close to Eindhoven. Everyone might think, why such an innovative smart city project in this neighborhood? Why Helmond? In the beginning, I always also thought this part of the city, of the country, why do we do that there? But then slowly on, the more I visited the neighborhoods and the area of Helmond and Eindhoven, I discovered that it is one of the most important tech campus areas in the world, with so many people who are interested in living here more in a totally new manner, as we know from every Silicon Valley in the world, more responsible than we lived before. So here within a 12-hectare park with close to 1,500 housing units, we created an environment where, through the energy transition we talked about before, and energy neutral innovation we introduce here in the project, the reuse of water, and even the production of food, what we do for close to 60% with the use of even a 10 kilometer of a regional influence from the farmers in that neighborhood, here for ourselves, for the ones who are going to live here. We produce that for the people there themselves in the neighborhood itself, but also with the farmers. And the idea is that with the data platform, what is totally through blockchaining, and we all know this from the financial world, but it is not yet used in the urban planning strategy, but we are quite far with the development whereby we can now say that through all the parties we work with, that we can keep the data totally in the neighborhood with the neighbors who want to be part of this data layer, and who want to exchange with each other about the responsibilities you take in the neighborhoods. And that means that if you are interested in producing food yourself, or if you're a bit older, or you are interested in taking care of kids, then through this data platform you can communicate about all the services who could be connected to this data platform. And even when you are interested in producing more food, and you want to sell it to your community in the other part of the neighborhood, then you can do that also. It's the same with energy. If you produce more energy, you can sell your energy to your other parties in the neighborhood, in order to make sure that you also maybe gain a certain kind of income out of your production of the things you do in this neighborhood. And the ecosystem of this sustainable and affordable lifestyle is created in the different layers, the smart infra layer, the interface interlayer. So the data platform can be related to a connection you have in your home or a wearable, but this data platform is particularly related to the way how we can improve the neighborhood around energy, your living maintenance, food, finance, and city delivery, and particularly mobility. Yeah, of course, this is my last slide, but it is actually so important that I explain to you. I cannot believe how much reactions we have received from this project. I might build the most interesting tower in Melbourne, but this project generated the most interest lately from many investors. We reached even the New York Times last year with an article about the innovation of aspect of this project. But I want to say it's not coming from me alone. It's coming from a huge set of people, and particularly, of course, from the city of Helmond itself and the Brainport Smart District itself, but also Alderman, who really is heavily promoting this project in a very passionate way. So it is the team who made this project close to happening, because we are working on going on in the ground very soon. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you very much, Ben.
Wow.
I have a small question about this last topic that you talked about, because you get so many questions about, well, the smart city that you are creating with a lot of partners, of course, in Helmond.
Yeah.
But that's just a really tiny city when we look into what you are doing all over the world. How is it possible that you get so many questions, that the real estate industry is so much involved with that project in Helmond?
It's a good question, because I sometimes don't know it myself, but I sometimes also understand it more and more, because I of course, this project started before the pandemic, but for instance, now we're talking to a major company in South Korea. I mean, I can tell them who they are. There's Hyundai. They huge, and they develop enormously in South Korea, and they say they have still a quite traditional way of building, a traditional way of looking at neighborhoods. They think that that community building, especially vertical living, because here we talk about horizontal living, but in vertical living, that needs to be introduced as well, whereby people can meet each other much more. I mean, as we know, people don't like to be in an elevator with each other or have a chat with each other in an elevator. I mean, we talk with this client about technology and how a new type of services can be applied to bringing people more together in the neighborhood. But we talk also about the building and how you could maybe after 15 floors have a breakout space, call it, whereby you can have community activities for kids or sports or other things. So that you take the staircase, and I've got to tell everything about health and the built environment, because I've only half an hour, but I promote through also the architecture that people walk more in the built environment. So by using more staircases, or that you through the technology, you say, I mean, if you want to sport more, then, gardening is one of the best sports you can do. So, so it's also a total new approach to how to make people more motivated and enthusiastic about doing things with each other. And I think that's the reason why we get so many investors, because the concept of bringing people together in a new way through technology, and get them more out of the isolation of living alone, or with so many. We know that also here, particularly in Holland also, or in Amsterdam, so many people live alone. How can you bring a bit more people together in a very casual way, and you don't have to. But if you are interested, then give them more services whereby you can introduce that in your neighborhood. So that's sorry, long answer, but that's, I think, the answer.
Yeah, maybe it's also about what happened with Sidewalk Labs. They also are entering this smart city space, and they tried, of course, to do something in Toronto that also got a lot of attraction. So everywhere in the world where these kind of projects are being implemented, everybody is wants to know what is happening, what is working, what partners are involved, how can we make this happen. Yeah, it's great to see so much enthusiasm at your side as well.
Yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely.
yes, but Cyberwalk, you know that also Cyberwalk Labs have difficulties. We have talked to these people endlessly, because we wanted to learn from them, and that was also, of course, the ambition of the city, that we don't repeat some of the mistakes others have made, and of course, they learn from it, and they do it now better, but they had in the beginning a lot of problems, because they were using it, also the data for commercial use, like commercial use. Don't get me wrong, I call it negative commercial use. So that they all wanted to follow everyone in the neighborhoods, so that they could learn where and how the bigger the Googles, the bigger companies could get more money out of these people, and that is, of course, where you have to be careful with.
It's raining here in Amsterdam. It's raining really hard. So
I don't know if you can hear. It sounds like we're camping, I think, a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah, you just passed me, so I'm sorry that I gave it to you.
It's now on our side. Well, thank you very much. That you were with us, and we're going to speak to you soon.
Thank you.
Wish you a good day. Bye bye.
Thank you. So have a good time there. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. We will.